So, translation. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O my Lord, O Master, you epitomized trouble for others, and therefore you were called Ravana. But now that you have been defeated, we are also defeated. For without you the state of Lanka has been conquered by the enemy. To whom will it go for shelter? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It's quite a short purport. Ravana's wife, Mandodari, and the other wives knew very well how cruel a person Ravana was. The very word Ravana means one who causes crying for others. Ravana continuously caused trouble for others, but when his sinful activities culminated in giving trouble to Sita Devi, he was killed by Lord Ramachandra. Om Gyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bando Jagatpate Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi De Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpa Turubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, verse again. Ha hatasma vayamnata loka ravana kamyayach charanam lanka tvadvihina paradita. O my Lord, O Master, you epitomized trouble for others, and therefore you were called Ravana. But now that you have been defeated, we are also defeated. For without you the state of Lanka has been conquered by the enemy. To whom will it go for shelter? Mandodari was Ravana's wife, and by all accounts, she was actually quite a virtuous person, even though she was Ravana's wife. And it's not so unusual that wives are virtuous and husbands are rascals. That happens quite a lot, I think, especially in this day and age. May also happen the other way around, but in this case, Mandodari was and she was quite virtuous, and she loved Ravana, even though he was a rascal, and she knew he was a rascal, because she said, Loka Ravana, O husband who created the crying of so many other people. Loka Ravana Ravana. So she knew that he was big trouble. But still, somehow or other, she had good feeling towards her husband. And she tried to advise him against his sinful activities, and especially against his most atrocious, abominable action of kidnapping Sita Devi. But he wouldn't listen to anybody, not even Mandodari, who was actually such a beautiful and loving wife. He wouldn't listen to her, he wouldn't listen to his advisors, his ministers. So he just did his own thing. And continues to cause trouble to everybody practically in the whole universe, from top to bottom. So Srila Prabhupada says here, there's only actually 2 sentences in this purport. The first sentence is, no, actually 3 sentences, sorry. The first 2 sentences are saying basically how cruel Ravana was and how much trouble and crying he caused to others. The second sentence is saying Ravana continuously caused trouble for others, but when his sinful activities culminated in giving trouble to Sita Devi, he was killed by Lord Ramachandra. So I was thinking about that point. Actually, can anybody actually give trouble to the goddess of fortune, Sita Devi? And I was thinking, well, not really. Of course, we know that the Sita Devi that he captured, that he kidnapped, was Maya Sita. There was, I think it was Vedavati, you can correct me if I'm wrong, who was a yogini, and she was meditating in the forest somewhere, and she was very beautiful lady, but she actually wanted to get Lord Vishnu as her husband, so she was doing austerities for that purpose. And one day she was engaged in her austerities, meditation, sitting peacefully, and Ravana flew over above her, and he saw her. And as was his wont, he thought, aha, my opportunity to enjoy. Because this was his mentality, always wanting to enjoy, to exploit others and everything for his personal satisfaction. So he came down from the sky, because he was able to fly in the sky, and he approached this young lady, Vedavati, and she warned him. She says, "Don't touch me." But he was used to just getting his way, which is another characteristic of those of us who always want to enjoy for ourselves. We just always want to get our own way. So he actually grabbed her hair, and as soon as he did that, for her this was the end. Nothing more could be tolerated. So since she'd already acquired great mystic potency, she actually cut her hair with her own hand, and then she, like Sati, she actually burnt herself and died in the fire that she created from within herself. But before that, she'd vowed to Ravana that actually, I will be the cause of your death. And I think it was, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was her also who said that, no, actually it wasn't. It was, I think it was either Nalakuvara or his brother. They'd cursed him after he'd actually raped their wife, or one of the wives of the Nalakuvara and the sons of Kuvera. That if he ever forced himself on another woman, that he would die. But she, Vedavati, she said, I will be the cause of your death. So she apparently was the Sita who appeared, who replaced the original Sita that Ravana then kidnapped. And then when Sita had to go through the ordeal of fire, then the Maya Sita was replaced by Agni Dev. He replaced her with when she came out of the fire, it was the actual original Sita, like that. So actually, Sita Devi herself, she could actually never be given trouble by anyone. But apparently, Ravana was causing great trouble to Sita Devi. So therefore, Lord Ramachandra took this as a bona fide reason for killing Ravana. So he took that opportunity of that arrangement so that he could actually fulfill the desires of the demigods who had begged for him to come and appear to rid the universe of this menace, Ravana. So I was thinking, so the verse says, no, but now that you've been defeated, we are also defeated. So the wives, both Mandodari and all the other wives, they were thinking that without our husband, we're lost, we're vulnerable, we're fragile, we're weak, we're feeble. What can we do? So actually I was thinking that actually this is our position in life, actually. We are totally vulnerable. And it explains why actually we're always looking for shelter. Everybody's looking for shelter, even from a rogue or a rascal like Ravana. So even though Mandodari, I don't know about the other wives, but Mandodari was a good wife and virtuous and giving good advice to her husband, she was still taking protection from him. So we need, at the living entity, because we are Tatashta Shakti, marginal energy of the Lord, we have to have shelter, we have to have protection. We can't exist independently. We can't be happy without protection. That explains why sometimes whole nations become enslaved by a dictator. Like I heard one story recently about Stalin. So you may or may not know something about Stalin, but he was not for the whole universe, but at least in Russia, he was a great tyrant. And he was very fearful, even though he was actually the boss. And he was in complete control. But he was still fearful of his position. So, sometimes when he got sick, he would have a doctor. And what he would do is he would get a doctor in and then he would diagnose him and then prescribe some medication or do whatever required to help Stalin. But then he would have that doctor killed afterwards, because he didn't want it to get out, that Stalin is suffering from this. He's weak, or he's ill, or whatever. He didn't want to appear vulnerable. And also, not only that, not just with his doctors, actually with his ministers. He would have a rotating system so that he would acquire some ministers who would advise him, and then after a while he'd think they're getting a bit too close to me, so he'd have them murdered. And then he would get new ones. He'd train them up, and then after a while he'd murder them and get some new ones. I mean, so demoniac. It's unbelievable. Because he was so afraid that actually if they get too close to him, they may they may usurp him, take his position. They get control, so you just get rid of them like that. But the amazing thing is that people still wanted to become his ministers. People were still thinking, yes, he won't do it to me. Actually, he relies on me, and he'll look after me. He likes me. But he didn't. They would go after some time. So this is the nature of the individual living being, that actually we must have a leader, we must have protection, somebody that will look after us. So the wives of Ravana, they're lamenting for the death of Ravana and their husbands, and they're saying, we're also defeated, for without you the state of Lanka has been conquered by the enemy. To whom will it go for shelter? So this is like speaking about home. We all want to have a home which is safe and happy. We want a safe and happy home. So we want to keep out any untoward people who are going to cause us problems. And we want, just within that home, we want to feel safe, that no criminals can come and hurt us or take our possessions or hurt the people that that we love, who are in the house. So really, that's what everybody wants: a happy home. And to be with people who will look after us, we can look after them. If we get sick, they will take care of us. When we get old, people often, they want to have children, so when they get old, they'll be looked after. So everybody's looking for a happy home. But without their leader, and without protection, without shelter, there can't be a happy home. There can't be a happy... That's why in the nation, the biggest expenditure, practically, I don't know exactly the figures, but is defense. The army, the air force, the navy. Billions of pounds spent on these expenditures to protect, to make a happy, and like Maharaj was saying about yesterday, about keeping everybody out. All the other, so we can have a happy place where we can live comfortably and we can just conduct our lives and enjoy ourselves. So in the same way, the wives of Ravana's wife Mandodari and the other wives, they're lamenting because they lost their shelter. So this is natural, actually. Even though he was a rascal, a great rascal. Apart from Stalin, there's other examples like Hitler, for instance. So many people were bewildered by Hitler and followed him for the same reason. So we're all looking for that home where we can be happy. But actually, there's only one home where we can really be happy and safe and secure, and that is Goloka Vrindavan. And there we have a leader, Krishna, who's not a rascal. Well, he is a rascal in one way, but a nice rascal. A mischievous rascal sometimes. Jai Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda. Jai Shri Shri Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman. Jai Shri Shri Gaura Krishna. So, so this is actually our real home, where we belong, in Goloka Vrindavan. So, actually there's one story about one other goddess of fortune, Rukmini Devi. So Rukmini Devi, she also was in a bit of trouble. She was due to be married against her will to Shishupal. And she'd already given her heart away. You know who she gave her heart away to Krishna, because she'd never met Krishna, but she'd heard about him, and she'd heard how wonderful Krishna is. So she thought, I only want Krishna as my husband. So she was about to be married to Shishupal, and she was getting a little bit worried. My especially her brother Rukmi wanted her to be married to Shishupal, probably for political reasons, because to curry favor with Shishupal. But he managed to persuade her father and the rest of her family that she should be married to Shishupal. But Shishupal wasn't somebody that she really felt was a worthy husband. So, more or less practically at the last minute, she wrote a letter to Krishna, and she gave it to a brahmana, very highly qualified brahmana, and told him, quick, take this letter to Dwarka, give it to Krishna, so that he and what she wrote in that letter was, Krishna, please, we'll have to have a Rakshasa wedding. That means no ceremony, nothing, just come and take me, kidnap me, like that. So there's a difference between Ravana's kidnapping and Krishna's kidnapping. So she sent this letter, the brahmana went, but she didn't hear anything from Krishna. So she was getting really worried. Because once Shishupal touches me, that's it, finished. Nobody, in the Vedic culture, nobody will look at me after that. Even though she was so beautiful, so highly qualified, so cultured, such a perfect wife she would make, that nobody would actually look at her after she'd been touched by another man. Just like the example of Bhishma Dev. He captured these three ladies. What are their names? Ambala and Ambalika. Ambika and but one of them, I think it was Amba, she'd already given her heart. She wanted somebody else for a husband, and he'd kidnapped them, Bhishma Dev, so that his stepsons could, or nephews or cousins, I can't remember what the exact relation was, but so that they could have wives. But when it was revealed that this Amba had already given her heart to somebody else, then there was no way she could be married to Maharaj Shantanu's sons. And I think, yeah. Stepbrothers, yeah, okay. That's right, yeah. So she went back, Amba went back to her original suitor, but he wouldn't look at her. He said, no way, I can't have you as my wife now. You've been touched by Bhishma Dev. And then that caused a whole big problem. And she eventually took rebirth to actually kill Bhishma Dev. Because she was so angry with him for ruining her married life. So Rukmini Devi was really worried that she was going to get married after Shishupal, when really she only wanted Krishna. So she had to cry out. She was desperate, actually, totally desperate. Said, is Krishna going to come? In fact, there's one verse she speaks, which is in the 10th canto, the 52nd chapter. She says, O lotus-eyed one, great souls like Lord Shiva hanker to bathe in the dust of your lotus feet, and thereby destroy their ignorance. If I cannot obtain your mercy, I shall simply give up my vital force, which will have become weak from the severe penances I will perform. then after hundreds of lifetimes of endeavor, I may obtain your mercy. So she's really calling out to Krishna with great longing to get Krishna. Because she says, if I cannot obtain your mercy, I shall simply give up my life, my vital force. So, this is actually the mood that we have to try to cultivate to get Krishna's mercy. We have to be begging him, just like the example given of a child crying for his mother. He doesn't hold back at all. He just completely goes for it and screams. He doesn't care what anybody else thinks. He just screams as loud as he can for his mother. And then, of course, hopefully she's within earshot and she comes and picks him up. So we have to be like that. So the wives of Ravana, or Mandodari in particular, they're feeling what shelter will there be without our protector, even though he's a rascal. But actually, Lord Ram, he had a plan. They were not going to be without protection because already Vibhishana had defected before the battle. He defected to Lord Ramachandra, and he'd after advising Ravana, he says, you must stop this or this will be the destruction of our whole race of Rakshasas. So Ravana, of course, ignored him again. He was so pig-headed. And so he says, okay, I'm leaving. And he went with 3 or 4 of his associates. They went to the encampment of Lord Ram. And they were hovering in the sky, waiting, not sure what their welcome would be. And Sugriva and some of his other advisors saying, we should kill them. They're just spies. We shouldn't accept them because, they'll just find out, where our strengths and weaknesses are, and then they'll exploit it. They'll go back to Ravana. So we should just get rid of them straight away. So Lord Ram was actually consulting with all his advisors, and one after another they spoke, and finally he came to Hanuman, and Hanuman says, actually, I think he's genuine. Vibhishana is genuine. He genuinely wants to come and take shelter of Lord Ram, because he said a person can't really conceal his real intentions. And I can see by his demeanor that he's serious. He really means it. He's sincere. So Lord Ram was very pleased with this advice. And he spoke one famous verse. I don't know it in Sanskrit, but he said, if I can find it. Yeah. Ram was very pleased with Hanuman's speech, but still Sugriva argued, since Vibhishan has deserted his brother at a time of adversity, it can be understood that there is no one he would not betray. Ram replied, I believe that Vibhishan has genuinely rejected Ravana. After all, such dissension often occurs in royal families. Let us welcome him as our ally. Sugriva meekly protested. Maybe he was sent by Ravana. Just to be on the safe side, we should immediately capture or kill him. Otherwise, if we trust him, he may turn on us at any moment. Ram smiled and said, do you really think that this Rakshasa could harm me? With the mere tip of my finger, I could kill all the Rakshasas and Asuras. Now please listen attentively as I narrate to you a story. Oh, that wasn't the bit I wanted. That's not the famous... trying to find the actual words. Oh yeah, this is it. Ram said, besides this moral consideration, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is my eternal principle that if any living being takes shelter of me, even once, saying, I am yours, then I award that person freedom from all fear. Even if Ravana himself were to come here and surrender to me, I would give him all protection. So this is I found very inspiring. That even if Ravana came and surrendered, he would accept him. Even after everything that had happened, he threatened to kill and eat Sita. Of course, he couldn't do it, but that's what he threatened to do. But Lord Ram still said, even if Ravana came and surrendered, I would give him all protection. So that's the nature of the Lord, that he's always ready and willing. He never holds a grudge against us. He never thinks that that's it. This person has just done too much. I just can't tolerate him anymore. Lord Krishna's and Lord Ram's patience with us, his tolerance of us, is infinite, and we can never actually. It's not possible for the living entity, however abominable he may behave, whatever depths he falls to, the Lord will always accept him back. So this is one of the wonderful qualities of Lord Krishna and Lord Ram, that he's all forgiving, and at no time should we ever give up hope that actually Krishna will bestow his mercy on us. This is a few thoughts on this particular verse and purport. If there's any questions or comments.